Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Raposo. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Education Marketing Leader with Chris Raposo. Today my guest is Erica Marye, System Director of Digital Marketing at the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. And today's episode is part of our Community College Month series, and the topic is on leading digital strategy across 16 colleges. Erica, welcome to the show.
Happy Community College Month, Chris.
Happy Community College Month. I love it. It's third year in a row that I'm doing this series, so I really appreciate you being a part of it. A little bit of background information. When we started this episode, I asked Erica how to spell her last name because it's spelled, how to pronounce it is spelled Marye. I got a little tripped up here. So Erica, you got me straightened up, right?
Yep, it's Marye. I've gotten Mary, Marye. Sometimes people call me Mary instead of Erica, so anything goes. It's totally fine.
We'll go with Marye. It's easy enough, and let's start the episode to spotlight you as the community college marketer and the great work you do for the state of Kentucky. You've held multiple roles. You held a role at Gateway Community and Technical College, University of Cincinnati Online, and now you're leading digital strategy for an entire community college system. How did your path into community college marketing unfold?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I feel like I've done a lot of higher ed marketing. I consider myself to be an oddity in the fact that when I went to college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I never changed my major. I graduated in 3.5 years. It was just I know that's not the normal strategy. That's not what my husband's trajectory was. So I understand that I am the abnormal in there. So I went to Eastern Kentucky University, and I was sitting down talking with my mom about what I wanted my major to be, and I said I really like talking to people. So I decided on public relations, and it just stuck. And probably my sophomore or junior year, I met my mentor, and his name is Mark Witt. At the time, he was working in PR at EKU, and he just kind of took me under his wing. And following in his footsteps, I said, man, I love the idea of working in higher ed marketing, higher ed PR, anything to do with this lasting journey of education and helping people find that next step. Loved it. So after I graduated, I graduated in 3.5 years. I was like, man, I'm a baby. I know nothing. So I just decided to stay, and I went in the realm of continuing education. I got my master's in public administration. Doing that, I worked in internal communications for a company in Lexington, and that was it was a great experience. But by the time I wrapped up my master's, I said, I want to go back home. I lived in Richmond for quite some time, and I wanted to move back home in Northern Kentucky. So found a couple of marketing roles there. I worked in real estate for a little bit, working for real estate agents and helping them with their social media and different pieces. And then a position came open at Gateway Community and Technical College. I said, oh my gosh, this is my door. Higher education is my dream, and I'm so excited. So I applied for the role, and it was really entertaining because there was, it was said that I can't remember the official title, but there was webmaster in it. And I was very candid in my interview. I'm like, I am not a webmaster. I can, make things enough, but at this point, 10 some odd years ago, I was not a webmaster. And they said, it's fine, you'll learn it. Well, beauty of community college, I did. I got the job, and I took classes in web design. I took classes because it was great. I mean, I had the tuition offer benefit there. And so there was something I didn't know, and I wanted to learn it. And isn't that exactly what your community college is meant to be in your community, to help you learn that skill? So I thought it was really great. And then I also was able to sit in a seat of a student, and I got that interaction too. So it was a really awesome experience. So I'd been at Gateway for about 6 or so years, and I just kind of wanted that next step. And I've told this story to my NCMPR folks too. I felt kind of stagnant. I felt like my work was just the same thing. It was very monotonous, and I was in a little bit of a rut. So there was a role that came open at the University of Cincinnati Online. Big shift. Not a very far location shift, just across the river, but it was definitely a very big shift from learning digital strategy and how they ran their operation. And it was a really great learning experience. But reflecting, I didn't need a new role when I left Gateway. I needed a spark. I needed some professional development. I needed something to get me re-energized in my work again. So I always think that's really interesting. I wish I would have leaned more into some sort of NCMPR type organization or something to re-energize me rather than shifting in my role. So if anybody ever wants to talk to me about that, I'm happy to have those conversations. So my time at UC was a little short-lived. I was there for about a year because I missed community college. I missed the mission. I missed seeing these stories, these really impactful stories. And it's not always the rags to riches ones, but just the ones that are, hey, I needed to save some money, so I did this for 2 years and then transferred on to a 4-year school, or I just took one class so I could get a certificate. And, those kinds of things were really impactful for me to hear. So again, opportunity came knocking, and a role came open at the system office in the state of Kentucky. So for anyone who doesn't know, in the state of Kentucky, we have a system. There's 16 community and technical colleges that fall under the umbrella of the Kentucky Community and Technical College system. I think we'll get a little bit more into this, but all of our community colleges kind of have their own separate identity, but we do follow the same brand. So we're unique in that, but it's also fun you wouldn't think that being in a state, everything would be so various in the communities, but they are. And so it's always nice to be able to kind of see the differences and how each community kind of has its stakes there. So anywho, I've been at the system office now for 3 or so years, and it's been a great ride. We have a not new anymore, but when I came on, we had a new president, and we have a new director of our marketing department, and so it's been a good time.
Yeah. Small world, Mark Witt, I know him.
Oh, really?
He sent me 2 of his books when I started a book club a year ago.
I'm in that second book.
Yeah.
No, maybe it's the third. I'm in one of them. It was really cool because he asked for all of his students and people who he's mentored if they wanted to add something into the book. I thought that was just genius.
You are. Which one are you in? The applesauce one or the other one?
Whichever, not the first one, whichever one came next. I usually have it right next to it.
PR lessons learned, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me those. It's really grateful. Seems like a nice guy. Then again, everybody from Kentucky seems to be nice.
And everyone knows Mark too. Isn't it crazy?
It is amazing. Yeah, no, it's so cool. It's such a small world, and I'm a PR major too, so I knew why I liked you. So that makes a lot of sense.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Quick break to tell you about my new book that I co-authored with Rob Clark called The Attention Gap: Why Great Schools Stay Invisible and How to Fix It. We wrote it for higher ed marketers, enrollment leaders, and anyone trying to reach students in today's noisy, scroll-happy world. It's built from 130 plus episodes and conversations with higher ed leaders from this show, plus Rob's experience growing that tall family to over 4 billion views online. We unpack why the old marketing playbook isn't working any longer and what you can do about it instead to fix that. If your team is serious about closing the gap between great programs and real visibility online, this book is for you. Grab your copy of The Attention Gap today on Amazon. And now, back to the episode.
Now, you took, you said you needed a spark after you were at Gateway when you moved over to University of Cincinnati Online. What changed in how you think about marketing when you moved from a campus level to a system level leadership? Because, you were part of one institution with Gateway, one institution with Cincinnati Online, but now you have 16 of them.
Yeah.
Is that overwhelming at times, or how does that work for you?
It is a little bit. And you know, when I worked at Gateway, right, we are one entity. We had our own set of problems there, and I still live in Northern Kentucky, so we have to compete with the local four-year institutions because there's a lot of competition there that some of the other schools in the state won't have that four-year presence. Bluegrass does because they're right next to UK. Jefferson does because they're right next to the University of Louisville. So Gateway had its own set of not problems, but things to overcome. And then I go to UC, and UC, again, I worked for the online part, and there were different marketing managers for each specific program. So I only marketed 3 programs. And I'm talking like an associate of communication, a bachelor of communications, like those, there were, you know, one person for each 3 or 4 programs. Where then you have, talking about stretching thin, at our community colleges, you have a small department of 2 people who are marketing 30 to 60 programs that they offer at their institutions. It's like, whoa, that was a big shift. And how UC Online, you know, worked their digital strategy was you get this number of leads, which we expect to yield this many applicants, which we expect to yield this many enrollments. And then they kind of, you know, you have to backfill. Like, so you're estimating what you think you're going to get, and that's what your budget is based on. And I had never worked in that manner. It's more like, can I beg, steal, and borrow for a budget? And then it's let's market the institution as a whole, not programs specifically. So, you know, going from that type of strategy to how UC Online did it, and then now being back at the system or in the system and trying to market 16 schools, it's a very interesting shift. Overwhelming might not be the right word, but it's a lot. I mean, we have hundreds of programs, but not consistent across all 16 colleges. Nursing is, sure. Associate of Arts, Associate of Science, sure. But Owensboro is the only vet tech program in the state. Hazard just launched a nuclear medicine program, and that's, again, the only one in the state. So we're playing this really interesting balancing act of, okay, we want to market our programs, but nursing has no issue keeping students. Do we want to market it more and put money and dollars into the program that's already on wait lists, or do we need to shift our thought to the programs that are struggling? But again, what does the market research say? Why are those programs struggling? Are they in need in the community? And then, so there's a whole, you know, kind of thought that the board and the college's leadership goes through on how you sunset programs or how you create new programs and how that works. And then we're just here for the ride and say, hey, what do you need? What's your goal? How can we help you meet that?
Smart. Yeah, definitely gotta water the sections that need watering, but be wise about it too, that if there's no need from the community or no interest, then, you know, may have to sunset it, as hard as that may be for some people that work in the department for a decade or more to realize. Now, I know that you do a really good job with the branding with the Kentucky Community College technical system. Like, every college has that sunset over Kentucky. But when it comes to, I know a lot of people I know somebody at Hazard, I know somebody at Maysville, at these 2 community colleges, and they're all leaders in their respective fields at their colleges. But when you support those 16 colleges, each with its own identity and community, how do you balance consistency with local authenticity? Because you have those professionals sitting in those seats. How do you manage them, lead them, or support them without having friction with them?
Yeah, I think relationship building is great, but also, I mean, this is just, it shows the purpose and the necessity of those local marketing departments. So at the system, that's something, again, a mind shift change. When I worked at a college, I felt a lot like I reported to the system. But now that I work at the system, I work my job as if I report to the colleges. If you need something, pick up the phone and call me. I will drop everything else and I will answer to the need of what the college is. Because without the colleges, without their students, the system wouldn't exist. I don't have students, the 16 colleges do. So I try really hard to make sure that I keep those relationships with all of the marketing departments at the 16 colleges, but also their skill sets vary. Megan and Caleb both are huge proponents in their PR world, right? Like, They've got great relationships with their local news departments. I would never be able to keep those relationships up at the local standpoint. But let's say there's a story that needs to be elevated to the statewide level. Give us a call. We have those connections. We can see what we can do to help you. But also, not all the marketing departments have a web person. There's my webmaster. So we have shifted those skills to become part of the system. So now the system, we have 3 digital content strategists that serve all of the 16 colleges, and they will update their content. They check the websites for accessibility. They are in charge of all of those. So that frees up those marketing departments to not have to be so worried about employing someone who has a webmaster background. They get to use an open role for graphic design as a marketing specialist. So it gives a lot more freedom to the colleges. So that's my goal, is to make sure that if there is a need in your department, or if there's a gap in what you can offer, that's what we're here for. We have graphic designers on staff if you don't have one. We have a videographer and a photographer if you can't afford that, or if you don't have one. Also, from a contracting standpoint, it's from economies of scale to have one agreement with our learning management system. So it's one agreement for all 16 schools. Same with our SIS. Same with marketing. We have a marketing contract, and that gets to serve all of the 16 schools instead of everyone going out for their own individual.
Right. How do you keep that streamlined though? If you have 16 different colleges and everybody has a need, maybe you have 1 or 2 designers in-house, or somebody who can work on the website without them feeling overwhelmed. How's that?
It's tough. We have a project management system. We use Planner internally, at least with my web team we do. We just incorporated a new ticketing system at KCTCS, so that's a shift a little bit. It's definitely something that ebbs and flows too. Whoever deemed April is Community College Month, I don't know if they've ever actually worked in community college marketing, because April is the busiest time, and we throw everything into it, and it leads right up and butts up right to commencement. So it's like we are just like going throughout the entire month, which I'm not complaining. It's just like, couldn't it have been not April?
Yeah, right. And then you have a podcaster like me bugging you to come on a show and take some of your time.
Happy to do it. But so, it is definitely one of those things that ebbs and flows, and trying to prioritize. And then sometimes it comes down to first come, first serve. Like we get like 16 colleges in the state, and 1 photographer, 1 videographer. So there's no way that these 2 people can be at all 16 commencement ceremonies in May. So it's all right, you get in your request early, and they don't all fall on the same day, but those are just some of the things that we have to prioritize.
Yes, exactly. And the state of Kentucky isn't exactly small too. So, if you have one on one side, how do you travel over there, right? So make sure that you book that accordingly.
We're in the middle of doing system-wide photo video shoots. So updating all of our program photos and videos, and doing some testimonials. And so yeah, it's 4.5 hours to Paducah, and then everywhere you have to go, it stretches far and wide.
Right. What, in your opinion, or with your experience, what parts of community college marketing benefit most from system level coordination, and what should always remain at the campus level?
Yeah, I think, kind of the way that we have it structured now is really helpful. I think the local marketing department is that need is never going to go away. And we have support from technology solutions. I'm trying to think of the different departments that we have the system that are able to help. So, all the enterprise accounts for our Microsoft and the different things, those are really helpful to support. But there's always going to be the need at the local level, because a student is always going to want to go and talk to a person. I get a couple of emails every so often. It's like, how do I reset my password? And then, there's needs for all of those departments there. I think there are also great times when, legal is another great example. So we have a legal team at the system level who supports all of the 16 schools. There's no way the 16 schools could be able to hire and keep their own legal counsel. So that's nicer to have from the level here. From a marketing standpoint, we have an agency that really helps us with a lot of our creative work. They help us run search engine marketing for all of our 16 schools. So I think being able to have that at a higher level is also helpful, because in the past, we would all have competing campaigns. So now having one person and one entity run all of those campaigns, they're able to set the service regions, and they make sure that, you know, the ads aren't being served to two schools aren't competing in their spends, and it's just it's nicer to be able to have that so that the dollars go further, because we're all stretched thin.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially the overlap. You know, the competing thing is that you don't want that to happen for sure.
No.
Now, you mentioned NCMPR a couple of times, and you also serve as the NCMPR District 2 Director, where I met you in Virginia Beach last October. How has being part of that community shared your perspective as a community college marketer?
Kind of what I was talking a little bit about, of wanting that spark.
Mm-hmm.
NCMPR is incredible because the work that we do as marketers in community college, it's unlike any other. I mean, I've gone and I've worked at a 4-year institution, and I've worked in different, you know, avenues in marketing, but what we do and some of the things and the problems and the wins and I want to talk to people like, hey, what did you do for this, or what are your plans for you know, this piece? And that's what I love about NCMPR, because you will have experiences far and wide. If I need to talk to somebody about what they did for an installation of a president, I guarantee there's somebody out there who's done it, and they probably were able to save money and get all kinds of media coverage and do all of these great, wonderful things for it. So having the backbone of all of these industry, they're so smart, so many smart people that have just, I don't want to reinvent a wheel if I don't have to. So being able to lean on that organization. And I feel like if I really leaned more into that organization, I probably never would have left the community college for my little 1-year hiatus, as I call it, in the first place. I would have stayed, and I would have found something to re-energize and spark my work.
So many great people at that organization. I enjoy it.
There really are.
On the vendor side, going there for 3 years now, consecutively. So yeah, really like it. Highly recommend it for anybody who's at a community college and hasn't been a part of it yet. So check it out. I'll tag them after this episode as well.
Our District 2 conference is going to be in Nashville for anybody who's interested.
Nashville, but I don't live far from it, so I
September 30th to October 2nd.
Sweet. I think I'm going to Nashville.
Yeah.
So community college has attract people who really believe in access and opportunity. When did that mission become personal for you?
Yeah. So I wanted to work in higher ed. So it was never specifically community college marketing. And then when I was hired on at Gateway, they had just recently hired a president at the same time. So he came on a couple months before I was hired, and he's still there, Fernando Figueroa. And he got up and he was talking a little bit about how students in community colleges are one, I'm gonna use air quotes, but one crisis away from just their entire world falling apart. Mm-hmm. They're driving down the road on their way to class and they get a flat tire. Mm-hmm. Done. Like, I mean, they don't have a savings account. They don't have the capability to now replace or repair this flat tire and continue to pay for classes and do all of the things. And it was just like, whoa, how many people are in that boat? And then just knowing the support services that Gateway offered to those students. So then he, kind of turned it around. We have a student emergency fund where if that happens to you, give us a call. We're going to go to tire discounters with you, get you a new tire so that does not derail your entire educational journey. Because we know at the end of that journey is a higher paying job that will allow you to then not fall into this same cycle, right? So that is, it's just, that's the mission, right? That better life, that higher wage, that certificate that's going to give you the leg up in your career. And that really just kind of resonated with me. In that same time frame, we did a poverty simulation, and not everyone that goes to community college is in poverty. And like I was mentioning, it's not all about those rags to riches stories, but we did this poverty simulation, and it was, you have a kid, and then you need to go to, the Social Security office to apply for this benefit, but then you have to get to this place to do this, but the hours overlap, and when do you have childcare, and just how difficult it is to do anything. and I mean, it was just kind of eye-opening. And from there, trying to figure out how to best support our students. We might not have a bus stop at one of our schools, so that is a barrier to education, and how can we continue to remove those barriers?
That's right. The biggest competition when marketing to a student is not another institution at life itself and all the distractions that come with it. And that's
Exactly.
just a great example that you gave there with if somebody blows out a tire to help them out. How do you communicate that on campus? People are aware of that.
I feel like that's kind of tough too, and that I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I wanted to go around, and I wanted to put it on the TV screens, and I wanted to post it on social media. And our foundation said, "Hey, maybe let's not use do it that much, because we don't want people to abuse the system either." So there were our people who worked in student resources that they helped people apply for those SNAP benefits. They helped people apply for all of the different grants and scholarships available for education, and those folks were the ones that would say, "Oh, hey, we also have the student emergency fund." And the end goal was that, yes, we would help pay your heating bill so that you didn't lose your electricity that month, or you're hungry and you're trying to feed your children. Here's our food pantry, let's feed you. But the goal was eventually they would pay it back. It was not with interest. It was just when you are available and can pay it forward, not pay it back, but I guess pay it forward. And so it was never an expectation, but that was a nice thing. But it is that going back to the people you need at the local colleges.
Yeah.
Having that kind of connection with someone. We would do meals for Thanksgiving too. We would pack up turkeys and the sides, and we would pass those out to students. And just doing that and working with the people who facilitated all of the donations and took care of the requests, and giving out hundreds and hundreds of meals to our students who needed it, who wouldn't have had a Thanksgiving meal otherwise. You're never going to not need that kind of connection at a campus.
Yeah, and I realized over the years that most people are good and they wouldn't abuse this sort of system. Some of them are embarrassed to ask, quite frankly, to use it. And then when they get it, they'll be sure to pay it forward and say pay it back tenfold, even if they're not required to do so, and help out the person who comes after them. So kudos to you all for doing that.
It reminds you of the line in the drive-through where somebody paid for your Starbucks. So now you have to pay for theirs, and then they have to, so it just keeps on going.
That's right. Exactly. So since it's Community College Month and we're airing this during Community College Months, I'd love to close here. From your system-wide perspective, what makes community colleges so uniquely impactful, and what story do you wish more people understood about community colleges?
I think, there's a reason why they're called community colleges, right? Like, I don't want to take away from what you can get with a bachelor's degree and the need for education to help better your life, but also the community part is so important. From whatever, if it's a dual credit student who is taking classes while they're in high school, or somebody who just graduated high school but just wants to save a little bit of money before they transfer to a four-year institution, community colleges are always going to be the more affordable route. But then you also have adult learners who they might be stuck in a stagnant role, and they want just a little bit better for themselves or a little bit better for their families, and we have options for that. There's so many different training pieces that people just aren't really aware of. I could go and be a welder. Heck yeah, you can. If that's what you want to do. If I decide I don't want to do marketing anymore, I'm going to go and learn how to climb a pole and be a utility worker, because that would be fun. And there's all these different options. And for people who are shifting careers, or as we hear more and more about layoffs, which are horrible, but we have jobs that are necessities. I mean, and then we were in the middle of COVID. All of those roles that were deemed essential seem to be all of the certificates and degrees and diplomas that we offer at the system, right? So you've got HVAC, plumbers, nursing, like all of those healthcare roles, all of these things that you can get certificates for and start and really make a better life for yourself. And I just love that about community colleges. So it's just, if you've never been to a community college commencement, I highly recommend it. 9 times out of 10, they're free, but you're going to see people who are so proud of themselves and their accomplishments. At the Gateway, we always did something where, and I'm sure they do it at a lot of the different schools too, but they'll ask everybody to raise their hand if they worked a job while they're in college. And it's like everyone raises their hand, or work 2 jobs, have a family. We ask all these different things, and then who gets scholarships. And I mean, it's incredible to see what people are putting their education and their future for. It's really fun because the college commencements always happen before high schools. So if you have a high school student who's graduating with an associate degree because they just took so many dual credit classes, they're graduating college before they actually finish high school, which is always just, that's fun to see too. It's a wild time.
It is. So thanks so much, Erica, for your time today. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, feel free to email me or follow me on LinkedIn. I am an open book and happy to talk with anybody. Again, join us in Nashville for NCMPR District 2's conference. But I'm always happy to chat with anybody.
Awesome. Well, Erica, I really appreciate your time today and being part of the Community College series.
Thank you, Chris.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, the distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.